All right, Lorelai is here. Laura, oh, it's Laura, not Alicia. Laura is here. That's fantastic. Awesome. All right. We are live. So, hello, everybody. I am Kat Udero, psychic empath and psychic wrangler. Before we see who I've wrangled into today's show, let me welcome you to Third Eye Salon, where each and every show we take a fresh and quite a deep look into the veils, or past the veils, rather, of reality. Today is no different. We're going through the veil with Erik Unger, all the way from Austria. He has had a litany of otherworldly experiences, and we're going to sort of go through those and how those have what he calls strange experiences, and they're really like what I call like ascension popping opens, and we're going to see what that's been like for him and how that might relate to you, our lovely viewers, in your own ascension process. So before we do that, though, I'm going to flip us into Brady Bunch view, and we are going to say hello to the lovely Linda Coulterberge, psychic and conscious business coach. How are you, Linda?
I'm doing well. Hi, everybody. I am Linda, as you just heard, and I will be your live stream chat host. As always, my policy is play nice or get out, because we don't have time for meanness here. And with that, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our podcast channels, links, and they're all in the description box. And if you're interested in working directly with Angela, Kat, myself, please reach out via the links below. Thank you also, everyone who has donated and has liked our show and all of our other shows. Go back and look at them. They're awesome. And if you enjoy our show, we encourage you to consider donating through one of our many donation options below. And we would love to have you join our Facebook group. So with that, welcome, Erik.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome, Erik. We're very excited to have you here. Thanks for letting us bring you out of the metaphysical, cosmic, multi-universe closet. We are honored and thrilled to be the ones to bring you out into the world, as it were. And before we get into Erik's bio, though, we also want to make sure we say hello to Angela Anderson. She's a builder of motorcycles, channeler of oneness, Floridian shaman. Angela, how are you doing?
I'm good this morning. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited for today's show because Erik has such a plethora of stories to tell. Like, his stories play almost like a movie. I think the accent adds to that fact, though. But they play like a movie. So I think this is going to be a really exciting and enlightening show. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we will hop into Erik's bio, and then we're going to hop into his strange stories, as it were. So Erik Unger is an engineer, tech startup founder, and explorer of consciousness. Growing up as a son of a pilot and a math and physics teacher, he has always been fascinated by everything that flies in air and space, and the engineering behind it. After discovering his love for programming virtual worlds, he made software his career, working in many industries and starting his own companies. The physics and engineering of UFOs became a fascination from 2012 onwards, with an intention focused on the phenomenon his first strange experiences started to manifest. The lockdowns of 2020 triggered a life-changing path of meditation and exploration of consciousness, leading to more strange experiences. Erik combines those strange experiences with a healthy dose of scientific thinking and a far-out explorer mindset, while still being grounded and effective in the real world. I put quotes around it because the rest world, I don't know how real it is anymore, but so now let's begin our aggressive interrogation of Erik and his many experiences. But first, let's know who Erik was as a kid growing up, because I think it's always good to understand the balance, you know, the before and after and middle. So tell us about Erik growing up. You apparently had like really supportive, like intelligent, active, interactive parents that were really with you in your own exploration of little Erik.
Yeah, and I would say that was a very conventional childhood. So as compared to some other psychics and people who have like strange experiences like from childhood, I didn't have any of them or can't remember them. But yeah, for me, I was just always looking up into the sky and dreaming of flying and building airplanes and airships and everything. And yeah, being in around airplanes with my dad, and my mother was a physics teacher who is also a hobby astronomer, and we had a telescope and we're looking at the skies. So yeah, I've been always fascinated with everything that's going on up there.
Yeah, you were really primed in a very, like in the scientific aspect of it, you were really primed to have your head aimed toward the sky and be engaging from that like analytical consumption, pull it apart, how does it work? And I'm wondering if your mother, so she's a physics, and did that lead you into quantum physics? Did she ever get into quantum physics, or was that more came later?
No, not really quantum physics. So she's a high school teacher, not really advanced university professor or anything. But yeah, of course, from childhood on, I was reading like the popular scientific magazines that were available at that time. And so I always had a grasp of everything that's going on and what are the latest questions of like, yeah, physics, astronomy, and all those things.
Okay. So you had a really great solid foundation, and you were obviously really encouraged to just, you know, I don't want to say encouraged to be successful, but I feel like success was like just kind of a function of you understanding and being able to put things together and being very good at pulling things apart and putting them back together again. And how did this lead you into doing work with creating virtual worlds through software?
Yeah, so for me, I saw the first flight simulator that my dad brought home because, yeah, being a pilot and so on, and also him being fascinated with like technology. So we had the very first flight simulators, and yeah, as a child, I was playing them for endless hours. And at some point, I really wanted to make like those virtual worlds for myself and got fascinated by 3D graphics. And yeah, while at school, I taught myself how to program that. And after school, while being at school, I wrote my first article about 3D graphics for a print magazine. So back then in the 90s, still everything was printed. Yeah, and that then got me a job and freelance gigs and so on. And I was, yeah, self-taught programmer since school.
Okay, self-taught programmer, that's huge. All right, so then I guess we'll do a little bit of a fast forward and let's get into 2012. And so why did it become something of, okay, I'm looking at the stars, I'm looking at, you know, craft that we're building to get us into the stars. How did that connect and bridge over into, well, now I'm looking at UFOs, and is it okay to look at UFOs? Am I crazy? Are UFOs real? Like, what was your unpacking of that?
Yeah, so for me, of course, having a fascination with sci-fi and all those spaceships and warp drives and so on, I was always pondering like how would that work and so on. And of course, then there are those alleged UFOs, and you're curious and you look into those videos and you find a lot of like obvious fakes. And at that point, really, I was a little bit into debunking because from my background in 3D graphics and so on, I could like pick out graphic manipulation and what looks real, what doesn't look real very well. So I was looking through those videos and debunking stuff. But yeah, at some point I got a sense there are some patterns and something that I couldn't like easily debunk. And yeah, also at the same time, always had an open mind and was just consuming information from all kinds of directions. I was thinking maybe there's something behind those UFOs.
So then let's take it from maybe there's something behind those UFOs to I want to have an experience, because there has to be a bridge, right? There's got to be a point where it's like, well, okay, if it's real, then I want it to happen to me. Like, what was your process in saying, okay, it might be real, those are fakes, those I can't debunk in terms of, you know, your visual acuity and discerning what's real and what's not real on the screen. So what was a point for you to say, okay, if it's real, I want it to happen to me? Like, what would that look like for you?
So yeah, like always when I find something fascinating, I get obsessed by it. And I was consuming like a lot of material and really getting obsessed, watching everything I could find. And yeah, I would say my first big experience then was, I think, in 2015, where I was listening to a lot of stuff of Simon Parkes. He's a UK experiencer and has some very interesting stories, especially his early experiences from 2013, I think. I felt somehow really a connection to that and how he tells his story and what he experienced, because somehow there was a connection in me with that. And at some point I was driving from one city to another, long drive, and had the playlist of his interviews on, and yeah, got into like a little bit of a hypnotic state, and also, of course, knew about Stephen Greer and C5 making contact by you thinking or sending out like thoughts, and maybe then some UFO shows up. And yeah, I was driving on the highway. It was evening. I was in this like long drive state and thought, I should maybe try and see if I can send out something, and maybe that'll shorten my time if I see a UFO on my drive. And what I tried back then is using I say reptilian frequency, because Simon Parkes, he said he's like a soul hybrid between some reptilian soul parts, some mantis soul parts, and inner earth, I think he said. And I was just feeling like I'll choose reptilian. And,
bold choice.
And yeah, so I sent that out like into the universe and was hoping, looking to see a UFO. And that then at some point I really felt like, boom, there's something here. So like really, oh, now they're here. Still nothing to see in the sky, but I felt a presence. And the interesting thing was that presence was something that I knew, kind of the feeling of it, the frequency of it. That was, I would say, military, because in my past I did some software projects also for military developments, and I knew what it's like to be on one of those locations where you do that, and that has a certain frequency. And I felt that interesting. And then the next thing, I felt something right behind me. And then I looked into the mirror, and behind me came up a black Mercedes with two guys in it. And they were wearing black suits. I could see this because there was some street lighting going overhead, and always when that came over, I could see like in the car. And very strange, they had black suits, were looking identical, and they were wearing sunglasses at night, which is very strange. And and they drove up like 2 inches behind my car, then went out to the right and left and cut in front of me, and were going through like the traffic like maniacs and doing some, I'd say,
dangerous,
difficult maneuvers, all while looking straight ahead and going through the traffic like that. So that was very strange. And and then there was some off ramp, and then they were gone. And
so it's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say this was a classic Man in Black experience. And for me, the interesting part really was like sending out something and then feeling there is something, and also that you know that what's there.
How did you feel when you were having this Men in Black experience where they're zipping around you? Like, were you starting to panic? Were you like, oh, this is interesting? I mean, like, because you were kind of in a semi-altered state, right? In terms of this whole like meditative place you were at. So where were you mentally and emotionally when this was going on?
Mentally, for me, it was finally something happening. It was like fun. Oh, come on, let's play.
Wow. That's amazing that you were like still grounded and connected and reduced. Like you were a player in the game as opposed to, oh my God, this is happening to me. What have I done? I think it'd be easy for people to be like, oh, I summoned the men in black, and they would have crapped themselves.
Yeah, but yeah, it was really like fun. Finally, something is happening.
That's amazing. That speaks to the age of your soul that you're able to maintain. Well, one thing I want to back up a little bit. Now, why did you accept Simon Parks's experiences as real? Because his experiences, I mean, it's one of those things that when you start listening to experiencers and you're first starting to dabble, it's easy to listen and be like, okay, that's too much, or I don't believe that. I believe that, but not that. And I'm wondering, like, what qualified Simon Parks as being somebody valid for you and not somebody you just dismissed as being airy-fairy, etc.?
Well, I guess there was some some synchronicity and attraction there, because the stories he was telling, they were somehow resonating with me. And I'm talking his early experiences, stories, not his late MAGA, Trump, whatever thing he has been doing lately, but his very early stories where he really tells just his experiences. And so this soul hybrid thing, and really the stories he had been telling about his childhood and how he experienced things, there was just some connection to that.
Well, it's interesting because I also, we talked before the show about you being empathic. You're kind of sharing experience about having an empathic memory in another time. And it occurs to me that that's how I listen to things, is I listen empathically. I can't help that. Like I'm listening, unless I'm really up in my head, but I'm listening and feeling with the person who's talking. And that's how I'm able to discern if something is resonant with me. And I'm like, I know that that's true. I know that's wild. And I know it's true because my body is like in accord with it. And that's how it is for me. And I'm wondering if you have that sort of same experience.
Yeah, so I think so. And that's also one of the interesting things. So many of the stories that I might be telling here, or that I've experienced, they are going on in consciousness, and you can tune into those things, you can create those experiences, and sometimes they really also manifest in 3D space, like those men in blacks, or like really seeing a UFO. But there's also a lot of stuff where you're in a kind of altered state, you're in dream, you're in like astral projection states, whatever. And of course, you can't scientifically prove like this was a real event or something like that. But I think the interesting thing is that you can connect with your consciousness to those things, and then they really happen. Also, then it seems including some real nuts and bolts stuff going on.
Right. So you're experiencing it both. You've had experiences both in the physical and non-physical. Angela or Linda, do you have any questions or anything to interject at this point before Miss Angela?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I think it speaks to the fact that you can connect, anybody can connect with anything once they set the intention to. And I think that's what Erik was seeking to prove out as he had these experiences, that there was something there and he had the ability to connect, which we all do. What I'm receiving is that you are on a path now where you have been so logically focused based on your parents and your career path, that it's like now you are on a journey of learning how to balance the heart with those logical aspects of self, and that empathic side of you, learning how to marry the two, right? Because you've proven to yourself that you have the ability to tap in and connect and speak to whoever you choose to speak to. And I want to go to the Men in Black scenario. It's like opening up. Whatever level of frequency you open up on, you're going to receive at that level of frequency. And the job now is to be more intentional about where you are placing your focus, or setting the dial, if that makes sense, right? Because you can get anything at any level of frequency that you open up to, right? But it's like now there's a task of being intentional about pulling in those aspects that are founded in love, that speak to love, placing the dial at that particular level, and then extracting from that level of frequency. I think that's where the work is. At least that's what I'm getting. I got a whole page of stuff that they just gave me, like a whole download on Erik. Like I'm like all these experiences have been him like testing the waters, so to speak. And you have that ability to tap in, but now it's like, now you got to bring in that emotion and learn how to use that emotion, and that emotion that's founded in love. Not necessarily that you held any fear, because you didn't. It was just an openness to see what I can tap into, what I can pull from. And I think that's been the journey. And now it's founded in love. What can I bring forth in love? Because there's something that you have to do that works with tech to help awaken the collective, right? There's some specific task that's based in that. I think it's kind of pretty awesome. Yeah.
We're all so tuned in today. Thank you. Linda, what's your piece on this?
Yeah, we had a mini talk on this before the show, but I really do see a lot of people from the tech industry and who are very left brain suddenly having awakenings over the past 15 years, but it's really speeding up. So I really see a lot more people having complete career changes, like nothing works anymore in their old world, and trying to figure out, how do I shift from this world that I've gained my success in, that everybody says I'm successful in. That was my journey, into, wow, I'm stepping into this whole new realm. And I think that what's so cool is that there are all of us that are going through that journey, have gone through that journey in different stages, that are here to help people do that. And I see that as a lot of your abilities now, is that you can relate, those people can relate to you because you came from that world. You can relate to Angela because she came from that world. You know, I think we've all come from that world and are integrating this otherness, this other discovery, these other experiences into the here and now, instead of having, it used to be this, oh, those people out there are all woo-woo. Now it's bringing it into the norm. And I think it's a wonderful time for us to be here. And I think it's why we're here.
Nice, nicely said. Well, Mr. Jason, or not Jason, sorry, I was just saying hi to Jason on the stream. Oh, go ahead, respond to that, Mr. Erik. Respond.
And there's also, of course, as an engineer, there's some reverse engineering going on. So I'm also reverse engineering those consciousness things, and very interested in how that all works and connects together. And for that experience, just that Man in Black, I mean, that could have been just by chance. I mean, okay, what are the chances that something like that happens? But there's a chance for that. But the experience didn't stop there. So I drove home, and while driving home, of course, my brain was racing, what's going on, all those things. And when I came home and got out of the car, I was thinking, maybe I'm one of those guys who is like somehow connected to the whole phenomena through maybe past lives or through some other connections, and genetically. And so I was kind of asking the universe if I'm one of those guys who has this kind of connection, who then I want to see something right now in the sky. And again, I wanted to see a UFO because I hadn't seen a UFO up until there. And and when I really thought the thing, and I was standing in the middle of the street. I was looking up and thinking, if I'm somehow connected to that, I want to see something right now. And in that moment, a big blue ball of light, or a fireball, flew overhead. So still no UFO, but yeah. So now you multiply the chances of the thing happening in the past and that thing happening. Yeah, it's rather unlikely.
Well, if you think, a UFO, a blue fireball is not a UFO. I mean, I would put it in the category of a UFO. Did you know what it was? No. Was it flying? Yes. Why, that was a UFO. So let's talk about that, because you had a lot of other strange experiences, and this seemed to all be happening like within 2015. Like 2012 was sort of the opening, and if you want to, I've got my little list here, but like if you want to chronologically take us through like what happened next, that would be great.
I think I'll start with the very first strange encounter I had. I think that was in 2013, so that was no UFO alien thing, but an experience with someone who seemed to be somehow possessed. So what was happening is I was going to a supermarket, and from afar, I could already sense there's something going on, like some turmoil is going on there. And then I made out a guy who was like, shouting things and like stopping cars in the middle of the road, and cars were honking because he was kind of going crazy in the streets. And I was going by him and into the supermarket. And then in the supermarket, at some point, I could hear that he is entering. And it was really strange because he had his wild way of shouting, and people also were like screaming and stuff was going on like behind me, and I could already sense that this guy was entering and somehow coming up to me from behind. And and then it got really strange because I had a really strong sense that here's some danger coming from behind. And you have your typical supermarket thing where you go with your trolley and the music and everything, and at some point there was nobody there, and I couldn't hear any music, and all I knew was this guy is coming from behind me, and I could really feel him. It was like electricity in the air, and I could feel how he's closing in, and I was really pumped full with adrenaline, and like feeling how he came closer and really short before exploding. And then at some point I felt something ice cold in my neck. Really, I think he touching me with his finger or something, but it was really ice cold and going into the neck. And I was at the same time completely pumped up, and in one instant turned around and with one push, pushed him back, and he flew back against like the shelves and everything. And and that was really interesting because that was completely automatic. So I didn't do anything, just this buildup of energy, feeling something ice cold in my neck, and then boom, sending him flying. And and after that, he just looked at me with big eyes, what's going on, what I'm doing here, and then ran away. And then kind of everything was normal again. People were there, the music was playing, like nothing ever happened. And that was.
Do you think you depossessed him? Do you think you knocked out the thing?
I don't know. For me, it was like the first really strange thing that happened, and it was like being tested or activated or anything like that.
That's activated.
And
that's what I got. Right away, activated. Yeah.
And since then I really have this thing with people who just seem possessed to me, so I can feel them from far away, and there's always some electricity between us. And usually if I get closer, they get out of the way. So I had this countless of times where they just change the side of the road, or there's one guy who's living like in my area here, and I see him from time to time. And when I'm in a really good state, then he just wants to run away. So last time I saw him on a park bench and looked at him, and he was jumping behind the park bench and looking like, I don't know.
Here comes Erik, run away. Are there a lot of possessed people in Vienna? What's happening with all these possessed people in Vienna? What's
I don't know, but I seem to find them all.
you see?
I don't know, but yeah, there's something is going on between me and that type of whatever is going on there.
Huh.
So I have a question. When you say possessed, all
Yeah.
by the same, what do you think they're possessed by?
I have no idea. It's just you could say they are like mentally ill or something, which they might be. But for me, there's just a feeling that they are not themselves and that something is in them, and that's creating that kind of tension and electricity.
Interesting.
I don't know.
That's fascinating. Go ahead, Angela. What are you getting?
I was just thinking. I was just thinking maybe it's not necessarily possession in the sense that we would consider possession to be. It's just the energy. It's just the energy.
That's what I was picking up as well.
Yeah, it's just
different frequency that they're running at.
That's exactly what it is. It's you are in resonance with something there. But I don't know, I'm not getting that it's necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It's necessarily a bad thing. No. It's just the energy. Not necessarily a possession, though, in the way that we would think somebody is being like soul possessed or spirit possessed or something like that.
But it's something something very special about some kind of people. And because I don't get like shades of that with it's a little bit more or less like it's just I see one of them and I know that's such a person.
It's a specific like frequency range that they're all operating in, it seems like, and you're the disruptor to that bandwidth. It's interesting. So let's then move forward here a little bit and talk about, because there's a bunch of things that happened in 2015, and I'm wondering how this progressed, like your experience of being able to blast. You're kind of like this. What I'm getting is like you're like this EMF field to these beings or people that are operating on this certain frequency, and you're like an EMF blast that they don't know what to do with. You like blast them out of it. But I'm wondering what it is for you. Like when did the other ET experiences start happening? Like your and I want you to tell us, because I don't want to give things away. So you tell us what happens next.
So the last thing, we were at that Man in Black experience, which was on the highway. And I think a year later I had a real UFO experience on that same stretch of highway. So again, I was driving there. It was late in the evening, and from afar I saw a really bright red light. And in the beginning I was thinking maybe that's a helicopter, because it seemed to like hover over the highway. Maybe that's some like police or rescue helicopter or something, and it has this spotlight on. But then I thought, no, can't be a red spotlight, and all the other position lights that are like blinking red and green, they're not that bright. So and then I thought, oh, finally I'm going to see a UFO, or I'm seeing a UFO finally. And it was like straight ahead going down towards the highway, or me getting closer and the angle somehow changing, however, but it went so low that I couldn't see it. And so I just continued driving, and that must have been like 3 miles or something, or 2 miles away. And when I was getting there where it should have been, I was of course looking out, where is this? Is there a helicopter? Is there a UFO? Is there anything? And when I got there, I saw several lights over the highway, but not like a UFO or any craft or anything visible, just a string of lights. And I was thinking, oh, maybe those are some new kind of traffic lights, because they were just exactly over the highway, and both directions, like 8 lanes, so that's pretty big. And to the side there were some cranes for construction work, and they had some position lights on them because the airport is near, and so they had those red lights on them, and they were about the size of where I was seeing those red lights. And so in my head, I made the connection that said, oh, that's probably just a crane holding up those lights over the highway, because I couldn't see anything holding it up. So usually, those structures they built over the highway, we have the signs and everything. And also that would have to have been much higher and bigger than the usual ones. So that would be about 60 feet up or something.
But you couldn't see a crane. You can see a crane holding it up. So you're like, it's an invisible crane that's holding this light. That's what you told me in the pre-show, which is funny. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, I was just looking for something is holding this up, but obviously that's some new lights they built over the highway, and there's some structure or some crane holding it up. And I drove under it and I looked, couldn't see anything. From the other side, there were white lights, and it seemed like football shaped, like round on both sides, but there was nothing to see like in between, only the lights on this side and on the other side. So I was looking up and still not seeing anything holding it up while directly driving under it. But and I was thinking for a second, maybe I should just stop at the emergency lane and take a photo and look what's happening. But at that point I thought, nah, it's just an invisible crane holding up those lights they built here for whatever reason, and continued driving home. And the next day then I woke up and thought, wait, what did I just see? What I thought I was seeing my first UFO and the red light that I can't explain, and then lights that are held by an invisible crane. So yeah.
Nice. And I'm wondering, how did that transitions into your inner world experiences? Because were you doing anything at that time to activate your consciousness? Because I'd love for you to talk about some of the insectoid experiences you've had, and your because we're kind of moving in from the UFO experience to like direct encounter experiences. And I'm wondering if you were doing anything to finesse your consciousness, or if it was just happening despite yourself.
No, so I started meditating and checked out C5 protocols by Stephen Greer and was trying them out. Usually nothing really happened. But yeah, so I started getting into meditations, never did really long ones. But yeah, at some of those meditations, some things happened. So for instance, in one meditation, I was trying to like astral project and try to visualize flying over the city and so on. And it wasn't really the real thing. But when I kind of ended that, I was seeing the dark room around me with closed eyes. And I was not seeing like everything very clear. It was more like gray, black and white, without much depth perception, but I could really make up objects in my room. I stood up, spun around several times until dizzy, and then reoriented myself and was able to pick up like my phone or a pencil from the desk. So it really worked that I could see in the dark with closed eyes. And it wasn't completely dark. It was ambient night light and curtains. But yeah, so you muted?
Yes, I am. In your third eye vision, you were seeing it like in muted colors. So it's like this was internally, you were seeing like the lights coming through, but as ambient light, which gave enough light into the room for you to be able to navigate as if your eyes were open.
Yeah, right.
That's freaking amazing. Okay. Angela, did you have anything?
Are you aware of what star families you are working with?
So for me, I think mantis.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it all the technology?
Yeah, I
And
got
also
that right away. Yeah.
maybe smaller, also insect-like, more ant-like beings. So yeah, so I think I can get here into the next experience. So for me, that was I think my real first astral projection. So I did my meditations and so on, and then went to sleep. And while falling asleep, I had this perception of feeling of those typical vibrations that you tend to get before out of body experiences, and it was like a train was running me over, and I fell kind of backwards through the bed and shot out into the universe and was flying through the stars, or like Star Trek like universe. And then at some point I just popped into a spaceship, and that was like many tell, the typically round thing with just white light and no visible walls. And there were some beings in there, and they looked like insect-like, like upright walking ants, I would say. And the interesting thing was they thought, oh, this guy again. And I was thinking, wait, what? I've never been here. And so I wasn't there like with a body or anything. I was just feeling like floating there, and they were somehow perceiving me. And after they acknowledged me, I mean, they just ignored me, and I went for the technology and tried to find out how those white light walls are working. And I floated really close up to the wall and saw like some hexagonal structures and so on that were emitting the light. I couldn't really, like my engineering mind wasn't really satisfied with that. But that was my intention, to like see something of the tech. And that was that experience. After that, it was gone.
Wow. I love it's so I have this such a admiration that you're so tech minded, and that you're like, while you're on a ship, you're like, how does the technology work? Like, oh, there are ant people, but how does the technology work? Like, that is really unique. That is really different, because that is not where I would have gone. I think a lot of people would have been like, no, I'm talking to the ant people, talk to me. So anyhow, Miss Linda, hop in.
I was just relating to them that when I saw my UFOs, it was like, okay, can it be this? How big is it? How tall is it? What's it in relation to everything else? And, when I called MUFON, they were really impressed that I had kind of, okay, I know it's not this. I've gone through all those things in my head. And I love that you're going at it with that as well, going into the ship. I think that's how I would respond as well. It's like, how does it fly? What does it do? What can I take? What can I learn? Oh, hi. Can you help
over
me?
there? Don't be disturbed. I'm doing my thing.
Can you help explain this to me? I think that would be my... Yeah. It's so weird how we're coming at things a little bit differently. Angela, how would you perceive that?
I would have probably done it in the same way, only because I'm kind of like Erik when it comes to that logical side of self. But this is what I'm getting, because I've read books before on earth energies, and how earth energies can sometimes manifest themselves as light. that some of us can perceive and receive, right? And some of what you've seen, like on the earth plane and going between the sky or just floating along the ground, can be or could be that, just earth energies in motion. And so when you spoke about the ship and your curiosity to understand how it was all working, well, the earth is no different, right? There are aspects that you can perceive that function in the same way. So there is no difference. So being able to see the earth as more than just the physical, seeing it in a similar way that you saw the ship, and the way those lights floated, in your curiosity to understand how or what the tech behind it, right? There's a call to see the earth in the same way, because you have that ability to see the earth in a similar way. There's a technology present within the earth that you can perceive, that you can feel. It's electric, right? I see it in the same way, although I don't get as many visuals as you get. I feel it in my body. It moves in my body. That's how I feel it. You are similar in that you can see it, though, visually, and it manifests itself in that way. Maria Wheatley carries that knowledge about the earth energies and the way the earth energies move. And there's an opportunity for you to understand that aspect of the oneness of things. There is no difference. So what you perceived on the ship is present here within the earth. There's just a call to open your perspective, widen your perspective to see it, see the similarities between the two, because you have the capacity to do that. It's like a giant computer. It's like a giant computer. It's like the simulators that you created. It's
virtual
no
worlds.
different. Yeah, it's like seeing beyond the physical to that aspect and being able to pull that aspect of self. Once you do, you'll have a greater understanding for what you are perceiving and receiving, because it's no different. It's the exact same. Yeah.
Did you know that you were going to get read by 3 psychics today, Erik? No, you did not. Thank you, Miss
Because
Angela.
Jason picked up an image, so
Jason picked up image. What?
an image of the being. I picked up that Jason was seeing the being, and Jason, who's on watching the show, who's an artist, said he had the image from the beginning of the show. It was starting to form.
Oh, that's so cool.
And when I saw Jason's name, it's like, oh, Jason, are you seeing this? Because I'm having a flash.
Yeah.
Woo!
And the mantis are working with you on that to help broaden your perspective, because they keep saying there's no difference. Your curiosity to know the tech is there for a reason, so that you can see beyond the physical to the tech aspect of things, the tech aspect of things. One thing I just want to say this real quick, just to help you connect the dots. I've built 5 motorcycles. I started not knowing anything about a bike, but the one thing that was common between all 5 was that I ripped out the electrical wiring. I ripped out the electrical wiring and replaced all of the electrics. And I got to a point where I could wire a bike in my sleep, because it became that easy, because I had done it so many times. And through the process of doing it, I've learned or figured out ways of doing it more efficiently and more effectively with newer tech, because old bikes carry old tech and they don't necessarily translate into the demands that we place on them in our present state. In their old state, there's a corrosion that can take place that degrades the ability of the wiring to function as optimally as it can. But the thing that I did with all the bikes is to replace all of that with current tech, something that works more efficiently and effectively. And what that taught me is the way energy works, the way energy travels through the body, through the kundalini of the body. The earth carries kundalini, the body carries kundalini. There is no separation. Everything is everything. So being able to see the earth just as you will your technology, there is no separation. There is no difference between the two. And so there's a call for some of us on this plane. We carry that greater understanding, knowing that the earth has her energies, and over time things have degraded and gotten out of sync. But it's our job as those who can see to kind of serve as a bridge, as a bridge, for lack of a better word, right? To reroute those energies, to anchor those energies and help them reroute in order to bring the system back online into its optimal state of functioning. That makes sense.
And we both like motorbikes. So.
Yes.
Right. All right, Mr. Erik, let's hop back in here and talk about when you were with your, you talked about this a little bit with conjuring the craze in front of you, but we talked about it in the pre-show, which I gave a snippet for. But yeah, would you unpack that for us? Like why conjuring 3 grays? What was that about?
Yeah, so for me, it was simply an exercise in, I'd say, will and finally getting to see something. So yeah, I've been doing those like contact meditations and nothing has been happening. And at some point, yeah, I was in, let's say, a good state and very motivated to really see something. And I was doing some kind of meditation where I was kind of hyperventilating and really using a lot of willpower to yeah, really see something. For me, it was really now, I really want to see something. I want to see some grays. Can I just send out a call so they come, whatever. And if they don't come, then I just grab them and pull them towards me through the blackness of space or whatever.
Whoa. When you say you're hyperventilating, were you doing breath work? You're like doing this sort of breath work, building your energy and your will? Okay.
Yeah, like that, yeah. And yeah, really was wanting them to come here and really also thinking if they don't want to come, I pull them here. And yeah, and I was looking with closed eyes, I think, into the room, and at some point a face started to form of typical gray, I would say. So faint in the beginning and then really materializing. And I was thinking, oh, cool. And it's getting all those details. I wasn't even thinking about all the details. Even more here than I thought. And then 2 others were appearing and like hovering beside the other one. And yeah, I could see their face and a little bit down, but no lower body or anything. And I'm still not sure if I had my eyes open or closed or whatever. I was just in a special state. And they really were there like full visualized 3 faces with all the details. And I was thinking, oh, nice. But then they were not looking very happy. They were looking like pissed. And yeah, and they were coming in closely, and I thought, okay, I've created this visualization now, please leave. And I think of something else, but yeah, they wouldn't leave. And yeah, they were looking just very pissed and grumpy and coming in, and I was trying to like pull them back with my mind, and that was kind of a struggle going on between us. And at some point they really closed in, and I felt weight on my chest that was pushing me down, and I couldn't move anymore, and I just couldn't get them out of my vision. Even if I tried to like really close my eyes and look left, right, whatever, they were like always in front of me, and I was completely paralyzed, and like I really physically felt pressed into my bed I was sitting or lying on. And then I woke up the next day.
And you have no recall in terms of anything that happened with that. It's just they got closer, closer, closer.
Yeah.
Boom, it's the next morning.
Yeah, right. And that's interesting, of course, could have been a dream somehow, but yeah, falling asleep directly from hyperventilating isn't that easy.
Well, yeah, you were in your bed. I mean, were you, like, was there any change? Like, were you on top of your bed? Were you under the blankets? What was the situation
No, I
when you came
was
back?
like half sitting up on my bed.
Oh, half sitting up by your own body, or were you propped in
No,
pillows or
just leaned back against the
against?
pillows.
Okay, interesting. That's interesting. Okay. So, well, I mean, I think that's a great cautionary tale for people in terms of like Linda always says, careful what you wish for. Like, there's that thing of I'm going to command this, I'm going to do this. And it's like, okay, the child has called us in, but while we're here, we'll get some genetics, we'll do some experiments. He got it, you know what I mean? Like, here's the here's the exchange. Because I have to think that you went someplace, obviously they didn't just knock you out and prop you up. It's like, we're going to, I mean, that's how I would perceive that.
Yeah. So at that time, yeah, I would say that wasn't the most pleasant experience. And yeah, I was then also afraid of getting abducted and all those things. And really wasn't at like the best place. And also having this Man in Black experience before that, and then you just the mind starts to race and think what is real, what is not, and all this stuff. Of course.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the awakening process. Is I'm making it up. I have to be making it up. I made it all up. It's not real. I just made it all up. So let's kind of hop forward a little bit to 2019, because you had another, because this I would call this a missing time experience where you were abducted because you literally were like, standing upright, hyperventilating, or, doing this intense breath work to being on your bed. Like, that something happened in the morning. So there's a huge gap of time of how did that happen? But then you had another experience in 2019. Would you tell us about that?
I don't know which one, but I also had another missing time experience.
Okay, go ahead. You go. You lead.
Yeah.
Your stories.
Short one, but yeah, for me it was, and I think that was, what's this, 2019 maybe. So it was in the evening, and for some reason I was really pissed about something at work which didn't work out at all. And I can remember, because usually I'm not like easily pissed off by something. I'm more the calm, collected type, but this time I was really emotional and thinking, I hate all this stuff going on and so on. And I went out on my terrace and was just sitting down or thinking of sitting down. And the next thing I remember is that I'm laying on my chair there and kind of feeling like waking up and seeing one bright light. When I open my eyes, one bright light going through the sky very fast, and it's gone. It's kind of as fast as you would expect, like someone with a laser light or something just does something quickly on the sky, or blinds you with something. But the interesting thing was that I was really not like sleepy or like sleeping in, because I was really pissed about the thing and emotional and everything. And and the next thing, all of that was gone, and I was just kind of waking up, and the first thing I see is some bright light flying away in the sky.
So you're waking up on your terrace. Were you still standing upright?
No, I was lying in the chair and looking up into the sky.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. And have you had any other missing time that you recall then?
No, not like that.
All right. Okay.
And I'm also have to say I'm suffering a bit from insomnia, so it's really hard for me to fall asleep. And all those things are not just falling. You were tired, falling asleep. I would need like an hour to really fall asleep, or especially after having like this alien experience before that would have taken me like 2 hours to just fall asleep after such thing.
Right. Right. Well, we got like an hour left with you, so I want to, and you've got more stories. But I want to make sure we get to the 2020, because there's also like this, like these were kind of the precursor of what feels like to me is like the shell being cracked and falling away to this like other being that you are beneath that shell. And it was like, okay, now we've got these inlines and we've got them turned on, we've got them connected, and you're doing this meditation, of your own accord to anchor that really, that resonance. And then tell us about like what happened in 2020, where things started to really go more intense, because obviously 2020 we had all of the kerfuffle. And so tell us about your experience with what changed from these experiences to the next, that bridge.
Yeah. So for me, as many were suffering from what was going on, the lockdowns and everything, I also wasn't really happy with my life. And there were, all the lockdowns, and I knew I had to do something for myself and change, and started with yoga in the beginning and fasting to get some fitness. And and then at some point I started a course. It's called 45 Days to Awakening. That's basically an online course, 45 days, where every day you get bombarded with kind of all kinds of meditation techniques, positive psychology, basically a mix of everything that's out there that can bring people into fundamental well-being. So this term, it's coined by Jeffrey Martin, who has developed all those things. And another name would be persistent non-symbolic experience, meaning that kind of consciousness state where you don't think in terms of symbolic and inner talk and all this stuff. But it's a scientific term, and I might not explain it correctly, but whatever. But for me, it was really a turning point, having like really good instructions. And for me, the most important instruction was, if you meditate, do it at least for 1 hour, because usually your mind takes around 45-50 minutes just to calm down. And then the last minutes you are in really deep, in a real meditative state. And instead of doing like short half-hour meditations, twice do one hour meditation. And for me, that really changed everything, because in my 5th 1 hour meditation, I was doing an internal practice where I was just noting my own consciousness experience. And there, somehow I arrived at freedom and feeling free. And
so now explain what freedom looks, because you say I arrived at freedom, but what does that experience of freedom, break that down for us, what you mean by freedom?
Difficult to say, but just feeling free, not attached to anything, just the self being completely free of any attachments. Whatever. I was just coming to like, what do I feel now? I feel this, and at some point I feel free. And then this feeling free just felt completely true, and was sinking into that.
What I'm seeing is, though, because we talked about in the pre-show, whether I'm seeing it or whether you said it or both, but like you rose above thought. Like, to me, it's like your mind was free of thought, and you were being, you were sensing, you were experiencing, but you were no longer like in the thought matrix where the thoughts were running you. It's like you had transcended that. Is that sound accurate?
No, I wouldn't say so. I was just
Okay.
completely focused on freedom. But
Okay.
yeah, no other thoughts that were not freedom. But yeah, so basically that thing, really changed everything for me. Or that was the first trigger. So that was by no means like being completely in the Buddhist sense liberated or anything. But yeah, that got me into like a very deep and good meditative space. I think I won't go into the whole models of this consciousness map that Jeffrey Martin has developed. Might be a little bit too much for here. But yeah, for me, the whole world started to change. So I was seeing everything much more colorful and like on a big movie screen, and everything like glowing and being nice. And and then at some point I was just looking at things and merging with them kind of, and completely flatlining with my brain. And at some point, and the strange thing is, while kind of flatlining, I also felt this emotion of sadness for some reason. And at some point it got a little bit crazy, where I was like standing on the street watching a wall and feeling sad. And when coming out of that, I thought, okay, that's a little bit too much. What's going on there? So I dropped out of this program, because I have my company to worry about, and I can't be like standing around and watching walls.
Well, say more to that, because you were like, in that experience, you were like meditating and you were seeing the wall kind of become like translucent. Just kind of share a little bit more about that.
No, that's a later thing. So
that's a later thing. Okay.
That's the story how I get there.
Okay.
So that was my initial experience, where I could see that I could get to some deep meditative states. And a little bit later, I started meditating again, and got into a nice state. And every time when I was in a certain depth of meditation, I was hearing music, which was really interesting, like some harp and bells going on. And that was really so clear that the first time I checked my phone if like an alarm or something is going off.
Right. Well, would you tell us though about how, like, because you stopped meditating for a while and said, okay, I've got to do my business stuff, I got to get grounded again. What got you back into saying, okay, I'll give it another go, I'll what was the transition point to coming back into meditation?
Yeah, so for me that was Jeffrey, who just sent me an email. I saw you dropped out of this course, and do you want to take it again for free, because he wants for everyone to like transition into that fundamental well-being. And for me, I saw really there was something going on. So and I thought, okay, I'll give it another try. But I got curious what really that thing was, and I consumed everything I could find about his public talks, materials, read his book, everything. And immersed myself over 3 days completely, day and night, into the whole thing. And somehow I could find like those components of this fundamental well-being, this meditative state within myself, and then I was in it again.
And I think it's important to let people know that because of this man's work. So I did drop Dr. Jeffrey Martin's information in the chat. So his book is called The Finders. And that's so I put that in there for people if you want to investigate that. I think that was an important thing to note. Okay, so then let's hop back in and I'll let you pick up the thread from there.
Yeah. So and that was before Christmas 2020, and I had a few weeks of really nice meditations every day. And then interestingly, on the 21st of December, which is the solstice, and also was a big conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And I don't believe in anything of that, because my physics mom taught me that, all this astrology and so on, that's all crap and doesn't exist. And As an engineer, I still haven't really found the mechanics behind that, so I'm still skeptical. But yeah, I'm still seeing how these things work, and that they are working. It's just I haven't been able to reverse engineer them right now.
You'll reverse engineer astrology. That'll be 2024. Okay, go on.
But yeah, so that's really strange. Really, that they basically things started really to change. So it didn't do anything special, but 7 days following that date, basically all my meditations were instant bliss. So I would just close my eyes and have instant bliss and downloads and insights and everything happening. So not the kind of quiet meditations, but just closing eyes and then beep, beep, beep. Oh, an hour is over. And yeah, and those were like 7 magical days over Christmas, and everything was great, and a lot of family harmonies, love, everything. And on the 7th day, in the evening, I was feeling really some tingling starting in the body, and not the usual tingling you might get in your hand and in your chest if you do like meditations and concentrate on that. But it was really spreading, like every cell of the body started to like tingle and feeling like must be exploding or whatever. And I was laying down on my bed and I was really thinking, what the fuck is going, sorry, am I allowed to curse here? What's going on here, and will this ever stop? Because it's 1 hour in, it still didn't stop, and I was just thinking, am I going to dissolve into light, whatever now? And just laughing and crying and yeah, having this energetic experience. And then at some point it went away and I fall asleep. And the next day I woke up, and the first thing that came to my mind was, I always wanted to watch this Star Trek episode. So there's a short story, a short track called Calypso. And it came into my mind. I always wanted to watch that. So at some point in the afternoon, I find it on Netflix. And yeah, I watch it. And while watching those images of space and also the whole story, yeah, I got major deja vus and really felt like something is building up within me. And
what's Calypso about? Tell us about Calypso so we know why there were some deja vus.
Yeah, so it's about an astronaut that's like lost in space, and it's picked up by I think what was the name of the spaceship? The Future Enterprise. I can't remember the name. Like 1,000 years in the future, it's parked in somewhere, and the crew has left, and it had the it was ordered to just stay there until they get back or something, and it just stayed there for like 1,000 years. And at some point, and being very lonely and developing its own AI further, and then capturing or not capturing, helping this astronaut, which was like wounded. And yeah, then the story goes how the AI of the ship helps this guy and repairs the spaceship and sends him back and stuff like that. And that was somehow really resonated with, there's a ship and some AI that catches you after you're lost, and that it puts you back together and sends you back. But yeah, so this thing really triggered me, and something big was building up. And when the episode was over, in a split second, basically I had something like a total remembering of a lot of things, and one was like remembering what is like to be in space. And at the same moment I was in space, and it's not like I went from like here out of my body into space and that had a time component. It was just all one. Just if you remember this, then it's also true, and you are there. And I also remembered of being at source, like this bright light that's like so overwhelmingly bright that I really couldn't take it. And that then threw me back into my body. And yeah, and that was something that really happened in like something like that.
So that happened spontaneously after watching Calypso. You were just like laying in bed and you sort of just started to transcend and pop open. And what I would say is that you visited the central sun of the universe in some capacity, of which we all emanate. And then you were tossed back into your body, or you came back to your body?
It felt like it. So yeah, it was kind of like a near-death experience, but of course not a medical one. Meditation-induced NDE would be the right term, just that I haven't meditated directly, but it was kind of triggered. And it was like everything happening at once, like remembering being in space, remembering being at source, and then really being there. And then there was the component where it was just over and I'm back in my body and thinking, why am I back, and why can't I be like where I belong to be in my real form, whatever that is, which I don't know, but why can't I have that, and why do I have to be back in this life? And I was really curled up on the couch and like crying for half an hour, with like the strongest emotion in my whole life about that thing. And yeah, and then when after like half an hour of crying, I opened my eyes the first time, I was seeing that everything looked like made out of light. And the walls looked like they are transparent, just a little bit of light. And it also really felt like I should be able to put my hand through solid objects and walk through the wall, which I tried, didn't work. But yeah, I was in a state where I seriously tried to walk through the wall. And
yeah, there's just a whole emotional component that I think is really, to honor that. One of the things that you said in the pre-show, which I thought was really funny and fitting, is when you came back, you were like, what am I doing in this monkey body? There was like this disassociation with your body, like this isn't my body, what am I doing inside of this? And I was wondering if you could maybe expand on that a little bit.
So after I looked around and was seeing all the walls transparent and everything, I was looking down at myself, and that wasn't that same kind of transparent, but also I wasn't recognizing my body at all. So really non-zero. And yeah, what I got is, why am I wearing this strange naked monkey suit? Doesn't make any sense. And so after that, then I was sitting down and meditating for 2 hours to just arrive and come back, and in between try a little bit if I could still stick my hand through the wall or something, but no, didn't work. But that was really, really deep and really emotional. So for me, that really triggered some traumatic reactions. So didn't even dare to meditate for 3 months or 4 months, because really the feeling was, if that happens when you meditate, I don't dare doing that. And in that time, I also got a lot of dreams of what seemed like past lives or parallel lives or whatever. And that also added to this traumatic experience, because all those lives, they were completely fucked up. So I wasn't dreaming any nice lives. It was all being like a slave, or being a refugee, or being run over by a car, being tortured, losing limbs, and had this probably every other night or so. So and for about half a year. So really lots of lives, and always when I woke up, that was okay. There were dreams, but they were really real. So I was really checking. Oh, I've got my arm back that I lost, and my teeth and stuff like that.
Oh, my heart.
It's like we have this perception of what we believe a Kundalini awakening to be. And sometimes it can be jarring, but other times it can be a gentle awakening, which is what Erik is absolutely describing here. And when the Kundalini awakens, all those chakras are opened, and every trauma that exists that's sitting in those chakras comes out to play. And that's the integration process that he experienced over the next couple of months, is that unpacking of all those traumas that are seeking now to be seen and resolved and reframed, is what that is. It was similar. We have so many similarities. It was so similar with me. It wasn't a jarring, like instant thing where you are electrified, as some people can describe it, but sometimes it's a gradual, subtle thing when you are ready for it and you're ready for those things to come out to be resolved. Yeah, it's like textbook. Yeah.
Doesn't seem subtle to me though. Like, you call that subtle, then it's like a small slice, a very, very small slice.
Otherwise, you could have an experience like some of our guests have described, where they can't even function the next
true. They can't.
next day.
They can't go to work. They can't.
But you
yeah,
have,
that's
like
true.
in this case, he had time to essentially process and integrate everything that he was experiencing, and it's the same thing, just a different way of experiencing that Kundalini awakening.
I was thinking the same thing as he was describing it, is, he's having a Kundalini experience.
Right.
Because, especially when you talked about seeing everything within a light, that you saw the light in everything, because that's what mine was like. Mine was very easy.
Yeah.
And also, it just shot me into a different level of empathy and feeling the world.
Right.
Versus just my place in the world and my little connections in the world.
Right.
So that deep sadness, like I have to disconnect sometimes from that deep sadness that's happening, and just remember to say it's not mine. Because I think when that happens, it's the shift between that and sharing deep love, which Angela's so amazing at, of transmuting that sadness into love and compassion.
Right. It's that the thing that sticks out for me was that immediate knowing that this is not my home. Yes. Like, I know this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I had that, like, I literally said out loud, I told you I didn't want to remember, because if I remembered, I was not going to want to be here. Like, I had that instant, like, I don't want to be here. It's time for me to go. I want to check out. But immediately, all that love came down and I came back to myself. And it's been a progressive thing of just settling within my body and owning those aspects, allowing everything that is seeking to be seen to come out to play. And that's it's really big, Erik, in your field, is that you are being called to marry that emotion, allow yourself to feel all of that emotion, because once you do and you process it all, you're going to connect all of that with that logic and all that tech expertise that you carry, and it's going to be married up in a way that's going to benefit humanity in a great and profound way. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Erik, pick up that thread.
Yeah, so about that integration, there's also this shamanic retreat I just did last week. I could tell about, but I want
if you want to, I mean, it's your show, buddy. If you want to reflect on what Angela said, then that's cool too.
And the other thing I also wanted to continue talking about is past lives, but let's continue with the past lives for now. So
okay.
Oh, and also something you said, Angela, about not being at home here and stuff like that. So in every other dream, or my usual repeating dream is always being not at home. There's always a component of being somewhere, being not at home, maybe showing some friends around and explaining things or doing things, but never being at home, and also never finding home. So, and that's basically, since I can think, always all dreams are somehow connected with that not being at home feeling. But there was one dream once where I dreamt of coming home, and that was on another planet, it seemed and felt. And I was, finally I'm coming home, and I can still remember where my apartment is, and they have also like skyscraper buildings, and they look not exactly like ours, but a little bit similar, much more glass, and you can look through much more stuff. But I was really remembering, my apartment is in there and there, and has that number, and then coming home, and it's still fully furnished, and everything is there, and I was really, finally I'm home. And that was my only dream ever of coming home. And interesting, it felt like a little alien, and or like an alien planet. The building wasn't like really Earth-like, and the beings there, I didn't focus on them very much in my dream, but they also seemed a little bit like those ant-like people and humans there.
Now, is this also in parallel to your connection with Astral City, the movie Astral City, or was that different?
So that's different. So this is really felt like a physical planet where you can go to and just open an apartment and sit there and just do stuff. But another experience I had was where it felt like coming home in an astral sense. So I heard about people doing regressions where they go back in between life, and then many describe that there's a place and it always feels like home, and that's like this place where you go to in between lives, and then you get patched up and sent back, and or you choose your life and you go back, and which is basically also the story of Calypso. And a little bit also the real story, what's the Greek Calypso story. I'm
too pretty to know what you're talking about.
I have to look it up. Whatever. Distraction. So I heard about that thing, and I was thinking, oh, I should try that myself. So I already had seen the movie Astral City, and others who are doing like Astral Projection and so on. They also described you can go there with your mind, and also heard that regressionists are doing that. So I just I meditated and I visualized like the gates of this Astral City from the movie. And I really built it up completely as visualization in my mind, so that it was fully there. And then, I walked up to it and opened the door and was expecting kind of to see that Astral City, similar like in the movie. But yeah, it wasn't anything like that. It was much brighter. I could see basically only white light, a few structures here and there, but it was really feeling completely like home. So this bright white energy felt so clear and clean and home. It was really incredible. And then I was also greeted by a being there. And this being looked like a mantis being. But yeah, like everything there, white with just a little bit of color, and I couldn't really well see it walking or something more like floating from up here. But yeah, so we greeted each other, and I also had at that point kind of the same shape, and we touched each other and did some ritual with touching our antennas, and that's the kind of greeting you do there, it seems, and was really beautiful. And basically then nothing much happened there really. I just hang out in that kind of energy, and that really felt really like true home. So, and difficult to describe if you haven't experienced like that other kind of vibrations. It feels really different, like being here on Earth or in this reality or whatever. Feels much lighter and cleaner also. And it's like this Earth reality is much dirtier, thicker, stickier, whatever.
Denser,
Denser, yeah, right. And yeah, was just hanging out there for half an hour or something.
Nice.
But yeah, that was really nice.
It's the beauty of being when you're being astral and going to these other realms, like you don't have all of our karma, all of our work, all of the density work is in our body. And so when you can pop out like that and reconnect to celestial star family, you just don't have to carry. It's like I left my luggage on Earth. I didn't bring my luggage. I'm just free here. There's nothing on my back. I get to walk around freely, and you get to be in that resonance. Jason Alabama Adkins asks, I'm wondering, when he's had contacts, has there been communication? Did he walk away with any lessons to speak, so to speak?
No, so for me, there was never any big questioning and answering game going on. So I don't know why.
Because you're remembering, you don't need to ask questions.
Yeah,
it's just being turned on.
For me,
you already know.
Yeah,
it's feeling.
Yeah.
It's what?
Yeah, it's about feeling those things. I mean, there are others who can like ask questions and get things explained. So for me, it's usually just the senses, like visual and other senses. And yeah, also had other experiences when meditating. So yeah, I had a little bit of like the classic astral projection where you float out of your body and through your room and you can see yourself. Or sometimes you can't see anything and you get stuck in the air and stuff like that. But not that many of them. So I really never mastered like flying around in real world as an astral body, but I had a lot of where when I meditate, I just pop somewhere else. So I might just pop into some other location, suddenly standing in the middle of the street in LA or whatever and thinking, what's going on here? Or it might be, and that's also very often, popping into the consciousness of some other being, which is kind of interesting.
Talk about that, my friend, because you had an experience aboard a ship with some whales. Do tell.
Yeah, so that was one of those where, I was just again popping into some consciousness, and I was sitting on the side of a pool and had one foot in the water and was just relaxing at the pool and looking at the pool, and there was a whale in the pool. I was thinking, oh, interesting. Why is there a whale? And there's also some dolphins. And and then I looked around and there were several pools. They were all connected under the waterline with each other. And it was like a big area of pools with whales and dolphins in them. And I was thinking, interesting. And then I was looking around and looking up to the ceiling, which was kind of a round dome-like structure, and it had some windows in it. And in those windows, I saw space or stars, and it was not like usual stars you can see at night here. It was like instantly like, well, this is really space. And then it dawned on me, wow, am I on a spaceship? And why is this spaceship like transporting whales and dolphins? And yeah, and then I also realized that my body wasn't really human or myself, but what I could remember is that I had like gray skin and small or thin legs, and that was basically the whole experience. But yeah.
Well, I like that because you harken this back to Sue Walker talking about the Ponte transporting. So connect that with for us, won't you?
Yeah. And when was this experience? Yeah, I think after that, I heard Sue Walker talking about here on this show about like the Ponte transporting other higher consciousness beings like humans, whales, dolphins, and so on to other planets as kind of, I think, backup. What was the idea? Or to see the other planets, something like that. And yeah, that was really interesting. And we still have to get her to draw that.
Oh yeah, so you can do a comparison. That's a great idea. But what a fantastic confirmation, all happening here on Third Eye Salon. Then if you would tell us, because we've just got like 20 minutes with you left, I want to make sure if you would tell us, and also, if you feel led to tell a particular story, then seize control. But you had talked about also, astral projecting to an underground base. So
Yeah,
if you
and
would,
that's the thing I wanted to continue because it really fits. So,
great.
yeah, so I was on a yoga retreat in July this year, or last year now. And yeah, doing a lot of meditation, and while in the evening also sitting on my chair looking into the sky and doing another meditation. And at some point I felt some pulling in like the third eye area, and yeah, that got stronger and stronger, and at some point I really like shot out into the sky from through like the third eye, whatever. And I really expected that I would be flying like through space and go by stars and stuff like that, because I had that once a few years back. But what happened was there was no like outer space, but there were images coming up. And it's like, you can think of it like an framed image of some scene of something. So it could be like a building or some nature scene or whatever. And it was always like, there's an image of a scene of some kind. And then I'm flying towards it and then through it. And behind that comes another image. And there were just images after images after images, and I was flying through them, and I was accelerating because I thought I want to get through those images. I want to be in space and maybe pop into another spaceship or something like that again. But yeah, so they really didn't end. It was like so many different scenes of like historic things and buildings, and but at some point I saw something technical spaceship-like. So I slowed down and stayed in that one image. And that was, I mean, I think it looked like a spaceship, but it wasn't really like in space. It was in some enclosure, and I could fly along the hull and see, yeah, the shapes, how they looked like, but I couldn't really get away and see the whole thing. And then it dawned on me that maybe that's not a spaceship in space, it's more like a submarine in water. And that's like, under like a base for submarines, and I couldn't get away because it's like very narrow and it's just parked in there. And that was one experience. And then the other day or the day after that, I got more like visions while meditating, and one of them was flying over the water towards some mountains with snow on top of them. Seemed like somewhere in Canada or something like that in the north where it's cold and ocean. So that was one image. And then the next one was where I dived into the water and was going into some underwater base that was built into the rock of probably what I've seen before. And I could go into that, dive through that, come out again. And within the rock, there was a big chamber. Something of it was under the water, something was over the water. And in the rock, there was also something like a hidden window or portal where you could look out from this chamber over the ocean. And it really looked like underground base where you could use something to just dive into that and park the thing there. And
Did you
I
get
got
to
really
see the beings, or go ahead? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't see anything really, any beings. I just had a lot of visions about undersea technical things that looked like submarine, but also spaceshipy type. So not the classical submarines like we would build them. Always had those kind of underwater ship related things going on.
I was going to show you something real quick, Mr. Erik. The amazing Jason Adkins has drawn a sketch of what he was seeing for the ant people, and him and Linda were having this conversation at the beginning of the show. And Jason, he's so freaking amazing. He's just amazing, but his artwork is just like. So I'm going to share the screen, and I'll share the ant being. And you can let us know. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Does that look familiar? Is his name Steve? Have you hung out?
The head, yes, but the torso, I wouldn't say as muscular with that much muscles and more slimmer.
More straight down, more narrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the head is very well done.
Nice. All right, Miss Angela. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I have like the sense that there are two kinds of insectoid beings. So those mantids, which are also like in the higher astral level that I visited, and then the smaller ant people doing like real physical stuff also on Earth. So that's the feeling I get. And it's also interesting, the ant people story of the Hopis.
Yeah, I know Linda's on her head. She's got a resonance with that one. Okay, so we've got 15 more minutes with you, and I want to make sure if there's any final stories that you feel like you really want to share, any final strange experiences to give our audience.
Yeah, so something that was really significant for me, one of the very first that we skipped in the beginning, that happened to me is when, and that was, I think, back in 2015, something like that, where I did some meditation and then I went to sleep. And instead of just normal sleeping in, I just laid down on the bed, closed my eyes, and at the same moment, without any transition, I was like floating on over a planet. And it looked like Mars, kind of desert red planet-like, and I saw a being there, looked like a human ET hybrid that I knew for some reason. So she was female and felt like a wife, a daughter, or something really close. And I floated up to her and could really see all the details, all the pores of her face, and all every single hair strain, and got really close to her eyes, and she had those like big alien like eyes that would reflect the environment. And I was looking in her eyes, and there I saw the reflection of the planet environment, complete with all the optical distortions because of the shape of the eye. And I got curious, something drew me there to her eyes, got closer and closer. And then, of course, I saw more and more of the reflection of the planet. And then I saw through her eyes that she was standing in front of a ditch that was in the ground with a shovel beside that. And I looked at that, and in one moment, I got the sense that, ooh, that's my grave. And then I completely panicked, and the whole thing was over. And that really shocked me for some time. And I don't know why I did get this feeling that, yeah, this was my grave, like dig on another planet or something. And why is this being showing me this? No idea.
Why is this relevant? And do you have a sense of the planet that you were on?
Yeah, so it seemed very Mars-like. So that was my first intuition. And so my thoughts then logic. So maybe this is a sign I will die on Mars one day.
Yeah, it feels more like a parallel
Yeah.
to you. All right. Well, I want to make sure, Angela, Linda, do you have any cross-examining that you'd like to complete with our interrogation?
I just think it's all been fascinating and a clear example of our capability to tap into the field or be connected to the field and allow the field and the guidance to lead us to the next step and the next step and the next step, and to approach it not with a state of fear, but a state of openness, because that's who we are multidimensionally. We have these many aspects of self that are seeking to be seen. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to explore and see who you are.
Thank you, Miss Angela. She's been channeling Erik all morning. Linda, what would you like to say?
Mine is just, I keep hearing, have curiosity.
Yeah.
Be curious, because that's one of the keys, is just having that curiosity and openness. So I think that's for everyone watching. We all think it's supposed to show up in a certain way, look like a certain thing, and it's going to be different for everyone. So having just that openness and curiosity of what's it going to look like, and be open to it.
Well, I would add to that being open also to different interpretations and not attaching too much of a story to it. Because then you might lock yourself into like that story, and you can't like find out the deeper reality of that. So for myself, okay, I have those crazy things, they're going on, okay. There might be some mantis ET connection going on. I might have been one of them in a past life. Maybe not. Maybe the story is a completely different one. I mean, I wouldn't find out if something is different than I imagine if I kind of stick to it, like it has to be that way because it's the most romantic story or whatever.
Well, even in your encounters, you still question, like you still back up and you don't get super attached, and you still kind of experiment and be like, okay, that seems like it's true, but you don't build anything around it. You're like, you just let it sit there and be there, as opposed to then creating a religion around it or building your identity around it. So you're letting it organically grow within you and reveal itself to you, is what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, that developed like the last 2 years. In the beginning, it was really difficult because you have this like normal mindset, and then you have the strange experiences, and you can't integrate them in any way, and you don't know what's going on. And now it's more like, okay, stuff is going on. let's enjoy the ride.
Sometimes we as humans, our habit or our tendency is to develop a story around it, and that story is based on what's familiar, what's known, what's been learned, and all those things. But at the core, it comes down to the energy and how that feels, allowing yourself to perceive and receive and transmute and integrate on an energetic level. So the story is really second. The secondary, primary is that energy and allowing yourself to transmute from that energetic level. So it's really not about the story. The story can be many things to many different people. You can have many perspectives of a single story, right? It's really not about the story. It's about the energy that plays behind the story. So this is for everybody, allowing yourself to feel on that energetic level, because everything is energy. Emotions are energy. Thoughts are energy. Everything that exists is energy. So allowing yourself to play at the foundational level, which is the energetic level.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Miss Linda?
She took the words out of my mouth, so
She does it all the time. It's so annoying. Ugh. Why does she have to be so on point all the time? It's irritating.
I know, man. I was just visualizing these waves of energy and just having them go through you and just being in complete tune. So she said what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Nice. Great combo pack, you two. All right, Erik, from your heart to ours, what is the message that you would like to leave the people?
Be open-minded. Don't get locked into a story, and integrate things.
Very succinct. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to go into Brady Bunch view as we wrap up the show. So, Miss Linda, I will toss the mic to you.
Thank you, all our salon members and live stream chatters. Enjoyed it. We had great conversation. Please check out the links in the description box below. And Angela, thank you for adding so much. And Jason, thank you for adding, even though you weren't even here. Thank you for adding to our shows. You bring so much to us and so much wisdom. And Kat, thank you again for bringing us together in this beautiful sacred space. And with that, what's happening next week?
I love you guys and gals. So next week it's me and Kamara Jones. So it's gonna be all of us and Kamara Jones. Actually, Jason's coming in. She's amazing. She's what a conduit of like light patterns, geometric language, the light language of geometry. She's just got it flowing through her art, flowing through her being. And so we're going to talk about that and so much more. She's incredible. And I will be hyping her all week long at Third Eye Salon in our FB group. So please join us there. And with that, I guess we will go ahead and wrap it up. Erik, it's been a delight. And I just want to say, you're so genuine, and it's just I'm very honored that we got to bring you out of the closet, as it were. And I know that things will keep going rapid fire for you, and there'll be some collaboration in the not too distant future. But thank you so much for being part of the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. And
thank you, Erik.
And thank you, Lady Angela, Lady Linda. I'm so honored to co-create with you and to collaborate. So thank you. Thank you, everyone in the live stream. We love you. We will talk to you next week. We'll see you in Facebook, and be oh so good to yourselves. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.